Good work! More ping pongs!
The 1980s gave us more than neon lights, arcades, and big hair. They gave us some of the boldest, funniest, and most outrageous parody films ever made. These weren't just comedies. They were movies that ripped entire genres apart, flipped every cliché on its head, and left audiences gasping for air between laughs. And here's the thing. If you think you know parody, wait until you see the kind of jokes these films got away with. From disaster movies turned into comedy gold, to sci-fi blockbusters roasted so hard that even George Lucas had to laugh, these are the films that defined cult comedy forever. Number 10. Rustler's Rhapsody, 1985. If you've ever wondered what would happen if a classic white hat cowboy stepped straight out of a 1940s Western and landed in the cynical 1980s, Rustler's Rhapsody answers that question with a wink. The film follows Rex O'Hurlihan, a singing cowboy who rides into town with a perfect smile, a spotless outfit, and a horse he treats more like a best friend than a mode of transport. But here's the twist. Rex knows he's in a movie. He talks directly to the audience, explains why certain things have to happen, and points out the ridiculous cliches in real time. The story starts simple. Rex arrives in a dusty frontier town, ready to help poor ranchers stand up to greedy land barons. Normally, this would play out in predictable fashion. The black hat villain twirls his mustache, the good guys triumph, and everyone rides into the sunset. But here, the villain suddenly realizes the script is stacked against him. He knows he's destined to lose, and it drives him crazy. Imagine a bad guy openly complaining, "I can't win because he's the hero." It's parody gold. The funniest scenes lean into how squeaky clean Rex is. Bullets literally avoid him, as if they're afraid of tarnishing his perfect hat. In one gag, while others are bleeding and bruised from gunfights, Rex strums his guitar mid-shootout, crooning a tune like it's just another day on the range. Even his horse looks embarrassed. The sheer absurdity of a flawless hero who cannot be harmed, not even by logic, makes the film a hilarious takedown of old Western myths. Number 9. Pandemonium, 1982. Now picture the exact opposite of a serious slasher. That's Pandemonium, a film that takes every horror cliché and dials it up to absurdity. The story unfolds at a cheerleading camp, already a perfect horror setup. But instead of sheer terror, we're thrown into a world where nothing makes sense and everything is played for laughs. A killer is supposedly on the loose, but the cheerleaders can't stop doing what they do best: cheering. Even in the face of danger, they belt out chants with full pom-pom enthusiasm. Imagine someone running for their life while shouting, "Go team, go!" It's as ridiculous as it sounds. The film also stuffs in bizarre, random gags. A Canadian Mountie suddenly appears in the middle of an American horror setting, for absolutely no reason. Characters stumble across grisly scenes, but react with the enthusiasm of someone who just spilled coffee on their shirt. The killer, instead of being menacing, behaves more like a slapstick cartoon villain who can't quite get it right. One of the funniest moments comes when the scares are so telegraphed that the audience is in on the joke. The film constantly mocks the idea that horror characters never make smart choices. People still wander into basements or split up, but now the stupidity is so obvious, it becomes comedy in itself. Number 8. Student Bodies, 1981. If slashers in the early 80s scared you, Student Bodies wanted to make you laugh at just how silly those movies could be. The story introduces us to a high school plagued by a mysterious killer known only as the Breather. And yes, that's exactly what he does. Heavy breathing into the phone,
Hello?
wheezing like he's about to pass out before he can even swing a weapon. Right away, the film tells you it's not here to scare you. It's here to roast horror cliches. Every time a character dies, the screen doesn't just move on, it slaps up a giant on-screen counter. Body count, 4. Then body count, 5. It's like the killer is speed-running the movie just to break a record. The deaths themselves, absolutely ridiculous. People are taken out with paper clips, trash bags, and even chalkboard erasers. It's less Halloween and more office supplies gone wild. The characters don't help themselves either. They're written to be so painfully dumb that the audience can't help but laugh. At one point, a girl gets trapped in a situation so absurd that even she looks at the camera like, really? This is how I'm supposed to go out? What makes Student Bodies hilarious is how shamelessly it dismantles the rules of horror. It even includes a narrator who randomly interrupts to explain statistical facts about how horror films kill characters, and then gets it completely wrong. By the time the movie's done, you're laughing at how predictable horror had already become by 1981. Number 7. UHF 1989. Now, if Student Bodies poked fun at horror movies, UHF went after something even bigger: the entire TV industry. This was the brainchild of Weird Al Yankovic, a man already known for parodying music. And in UHF, he cranks that same comedic chaos into film form, with George Newman, a daydreamer who somehow ends up running a failing local TV station. On paper, it sounds like a normal underdog story, but George doesn't just fix up the station. He fills it with the weirdest, most nonsensical shows you've ever seen. Picture this: Wheel of Fish, a game show where contestants spin a giant wheel covered in dead fish, then are asked to trade their catch for a mystery box. The host screams at them in broken English, and the audience goes wild when the contestant inevitably makes the dumbest choice possible. Then there's Spatula City. Yes, a fake commercial for a store that sells nothing but spatulas.
9 spatulas get the 10th one for just 1 penny.
Need a spatula? We've got 9 locations. It's so deadpan that you almost forget it's a joke. And who could forget Conan the Librarian, a hulking barbarian who responds to late book returns by slicing patrons in half? Imagine Arnold Schwarzenegger with a library card. That's the gag. And just when you think it can't get stranger, Weird Al inserts himself into a Rambo parody where he's shirtless, muscled up with baby oil, and firing off machine guns while yelling nonsense. The absurdity is cranked so high, you don't even care about the plot anymore. You're just waiting for the next fake show to drop. What made UHF brilliant is its pacing. Every few minutes, it resets with a new sketch, so you're constantly hit with fresh comedy. It bombed in theaters, but on VHS, it found its cult audience with fans quoting lines decades later. UHF proved that parody didn't need just one target. It could roast everything on TV and still keep you laughing. And speaking of roasting, the next film didn't just poke fun at a genre, it took an entire cultural movement and turned it inside out. Number 6. I'm Gonna Get You Sucka, 1988. By the late 80s, Hollywood was filled with slick action stars. But Keenan Ivory Wayans decided to flip the script with I'm Gonna Get You Sucka. Instead of a muscle-bound hero saving the day, this parody went straight for the tropes of 1970s blaxploitation films and roasted them with a grin. The story follows Jack Spade, a soldier who returns home only to find his neighborhood overrun by crime, pimps, and ridiculous villains. His brother dies from, wait for it, wearing too many gold chains. Yes, the cause of death is literally an overdose of gold. That joke alone tells you exactly what kind of movie this is. Jack gathers a team of old-school heroes, men who were once kings of the street but are now hilariously out of touch. One legendary fighter shows up with platform shoes so tall he can barely walk, and another is so old that just climbing the stairs leaves him winded. Instead of smooth and stylish, these heroes are awkward, slow, and constantly complaining about their bad knees. One of the film's funniest moments comes when Jack asks his mom if she's worried about him taking on the villains. Instead of crying or begging him to stay safe, she pulls out a machine gun and says, "Don't worry about me, son." The whole movie plays like a love letter to the genre while also poking holes in every single cliché. The genius here is that the humor doesn't just make you laugh. It makes you realize how outrageous those old blaxploitation films really were. It's parody with heart, mixing cultural commentary with slapstick comedy, and it gave Wayans the blueprint for the comedy empire he'd go on to build in the 90s. But if you think this was outrageous, the next film took parody to an entirely different level by bending time itself and bringing back the stars of classic cinema. Number 5. Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid, 1982. Now here's a parody that was both a comedy and a technical marvel. Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid stars Steve Martin as Rigby Reardon, a private detective straight out of a classic noir film. But this wasn't just a send-up of hard-boiled mysteries. The movie actually spliced Martin into real scenes from famous 1940s noir movies, letting him interact with stars like Humphrey Bogart, Cary Grant, and Ingrid Bergman. The result is surreal comedy magic. 1 minute, Rigby is talking tough to an old noir star. The next, he's fumbling with his tie, tripping over his desk, or taking a slap that looks hilariously real. Because the old footage was dead serious, Martin's goofy expressions and awkward delivery create perfect contrast. The plot itself is intentionally convoluted, just like the old noirs. Rigby is hired by a mysterious woman, stumbles into a case filled with shady characters, and ends up uncovering a bizarre conspiracy. But the real fun is watching how the film uses noir tropes and breaks them apart. At one point, Martin's narration explains a tense shootout, only for him to stop and admit, "I don't even know what's going on." The funniest moments are the ones where his character fails at being a tough guy. He drinks the famous cleaning woman's coffee, a recurring gag where the coffee is so deadly it practically knocks people out cold. In another bit, he tries to keep up with the suave noir detectives, but ends up looking more like a bumbling intern who wandered onto the wrong set. What makes Dead Men Don't Wear Plaid special is that it's not just parody, it's parody stitched directly into film history. By blending old footage with new comedy, it created a hybrid movie that's part-time capsule, part spoof, and completely unforgettable. And if you thought mixing comedy with noir was ambitious, wait until we get to the next film. One that mashed together Cold War spies and Elvis musicals into a non-stop gag machine. Number 4. Top Secret, 1984. If you took a Cold War spy thriller, smashed it together with an Elvis Presley musical, and sprinkled in every sight gag possible, you'd get Top Secret, one of the most chaotic parody films of the 80s. The story follows Nick Rivers, an American rock and roll singer who travels to East Germany for a concert. But instead of romance and music, he gets tangled up in a spy plot filled with double agents, secret codes, and evil generals. Sounds like a serious thriller, right? Wrong. This is a Zucker-Abraham Zucker production, the same minds behind Airplane, which means jokes come flying faster than bullets. Some of the funniest moments? A full-on bar brawl underwater where characters swing chairs and punch each other while floating in slow motion. A scene shot entirely in reverse, where a bookshop fight seems normal until you realize the dialogue was performed backwards. And of course, the running Elvis-style musical numbers, complete with Nick belting out love songs while chaos explodes around him. Every frame is loaded with background jokes, signs that don't make sense, props that move on their own, and wordplay so quick you'll miss half of it unless you rewatch. It's parody as a visual overload, daring you to keep up. But if Top Secret pushed spy movies off the deep end, the next film aimed its jokes at something even bigger, the entire galaxy of sci-fi blockbusters. Number 3. Spaceballs, 1987. Leave it to Mel Brooks to take on Star Wars at the height of its popularity. Spaceballs isn't just a parody, it's a full-scale roast of every sci-fi blockbuster from the 70s and 80s. The story follows Lone Star, a Han Solo knockoff, and his sidekick Barf, a half-man, half-dog played by John Candy, as they try to rescue Princess Vespa from the evil Dark Helmet. And Dark Helmet, played by Rick Moranis, is comedy perfection. A villain so insecure, he has to lift his oversized helmet just to breathe. The funniest moments are legendary. There's Yogurt, a spoof of Yoda introducing merchandising. Spaceballs, the flamethrower, mocking Hollywood's obsession with cash grabs. There's the VHS scene where characters literally fast forward through their own movie to find out what happens next. And Dark Helmet's constant tantrums, swinging a lightsaber while whining like a spoiled kid, never get old. What makes Spaceballs timeless is its mix of slapstick and meta humor. It doesn't just spoof the movies, it spoofs the entire industry around them. Even George Lucas himself reportedly laughed at how accurately Brooks nailed the merchandising joke. Number 2. The Naked Gun, 1988. When it comes to parody, The Naked Gun is pure chaos in a police uniform. Based on the short-lived TV show Police Squad, the movie follows Lieutenant Frank Drebin, played by Leslie Nielsen, a detective so serious and straight-faced that every blunder becomes 10 times funnier. The story? Frank stumbles into a conspiracy to assassinate Queen Elizabeth II during a baseball game in Los Angeles. But the plot is really just an excuse for non-stop gags. Take the opening scene. Frank disguises himself to infiltrate a meeting of world terrorists, only to ruin the plan by sheer dumb luck. Some of the most hilarious bits come from how Nielsen plays it absolutely straight. During a car chase, his vehicle crashes into a fireworks store, and as everything explodes behind him, he calmly tells onlookers, "Nothing to see here." At the baseball stadium, he impersonates an umpire, soaking up cheers by dancing, moonwalking, and frisking players like he's auditioning for Saturday Night Live. The brilliance of The Naked Gun is pacing. A joke hits every few seconds, whether it's slapstick, wordplay, or background gags. It cemented Leslie Nielsen as the king of deadpan parody and proved that even crime thrillers could be turned into riotous comedies. But if The Naked Gun was relentless, the film at number 1 is the reason parody became an art form in the first place. Number 1, Airplane 1980. This is the big bang of parody films. Airplane didn't just spoof disaster movies, it blew up the entire genre. The story centers on Ted Stryker, an ex-fighter pilot with a fear of flying who must land a commercial plane after the crew falls ill from eating bad fish. Sounds like a tense drama? Not here. The Zucker brothers and Jim Abrahams turned it into a non-stop comedy machine. The gags are legendary. A woman panics mid-flight and passengers line up to slap her calm. The autopilot is literally an inflatable doll named Otto, who needs to be re-inflated in ways that had audiences crying with laughter. And then there's Dr. Rumack, played by Leslie Nielsen, delivering the immortal line, "I am serious and don't call me Shirley." But what really makes Airplane special is the density of its jokes. Background signs, throwaway lines, absurd flashbacks. Every frame has something funny happening. If a gag misses, the next one hits before you can even breathe. That relentless rhythm was revolutionary. Even casting added to the humor. Dramatic actors like Nielsen, Robert Stack, and Lloyd Bridges were known for serious roles, but here they delivered outrageous lines without a hint of irony. That deadpan delivery made the absurdity twice as funny. Airplane didn't just entertain audiences, it rewrote comedy. Every parody that followed, from Naked Gun to Scary Movie, borrowed its rules. Play it straight, never slow down, and never apologize for a bad pun. It remains the ultimate parody film of the 1980s, maybe of all time. Now we want to hear from you. Which of these parody films is your favorite? Did we miss one that you think deserves a spot on this list? Drop your pick in the comments. We'll be pinning the best ones. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe to Vintaverse, hit that like button, and share this video with anyone who needs a laugh today.